To the October school board meeting, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Cron, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Casper? Mr. Deming?
Here.
Mrs. Miller? Here. Mr. Adomo? Mr. Sarnes?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt? Here. Mr. Thompson? Here. Mrs. Yardley? Here. Dr. Yarnell?
Here. Thank you. At this point, we'll have recognition of staff and a student, and Dr. Radigan is going to do that introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm going to make a special presentation on behalf of the board and the administration here at Pennridge. And before I do, I would just like to say it's been just a little bit over a year now that I've been here at Pennridge. And I think I had shared with everyone that my first impression of the district was what a fabulous place this was and a great community with wonderful staff and fabulous students. A little over a year later, that opinion has not changed. I continue to be amazed and marveled by the wonderful deeds that are going on a daily basis in all of our schools and in our community. And tonight's presentation is just one example of that. On any given day, we can count on our students to make good decisions. 99% of the time, that is what is happening. But we are a large district, and inevitably, things are going to go awry, and students can make bad choices. One such incident occurred on Friday, October 17th. Tonight, we are going to honor 15 staff members and one student who truly, I would say, acted as upstanders and took action in a very critical situation. Thanks to their efforts, their bravery, their teamwork, an incident was over in several minutes with no harm to anyone, and the school was able to resume as a normal day would be. So they really deserve a great amount of recognition. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to call them up one at a time. I'm going to give them a certificate. I'm going to ask them to line up in front here because we also have a special guest with us tonight, Representative Paul Clymer, who would like to say a few words to them as well. And Ms. Gina DeBona, principal from the high school, is also here to share her appreciation for this group of individuals. So please hold your applause, and I'll ask that the following come forward. Science teacher, Mr. Justin Barry. Social studies teacher, Mr. Sean Burke. Social studies teacher, Mr. Tim Bush. Counselor, Mr. Pete Cortazzo. Special education teacher, Mrs. Sharon Fusco. Assistant principal, Mr. Scott Hagan. Counselor, Mr. Eric Henryson. Social studies teacher, Ms. Heidi Kulik. Social Studies teacher, Mr. Mark Ludlow. Secretary, Mrs. Brenda Roth. Social Studies teacher, Miss Angela Sariego. Science teacher, Mr. Matt Simpkins. Clerk, Mrs. Brenda Sims. Security, Mr. Ted Zajac. And one student, Mr. Brian Zaluga, 11th grader. Please come up. And while Brian's doing that, I'm going to read what these certificates say. Certificate of Achievement from the Pennridge School District presented to for their willingness to be an upstander during a crisis situation at Pennridge High School on October 17, 2014. Thank you for contributing to the superb handling of the incident. Congratulations. Have a round of applause, please, for all of these individuals. Very well done. Also, Mrs. Carol Ressler, an English teacher, was also one of the upstanders and first responders, as we're calling them, that was unable to be here tonight. Representative Clymer, would you like to address this illustrious group?
Well, thank you, Dr. Ronigan. It's indeed a pleasure to be here to acknowledge these very special people. And I handed out a certificate of recognition from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, very similar to the wordings that you heard Dr. Ronigan just mention. And I would like to say that that what we have seen here is that 16 people who were willing to get involved. They knew that there was a serious incident occurring in the school, that a young lady could receive bodily injury, a serious bodily injury, and they were willing to participate in each of the different ways that they thought was important. And it was a very positive, and that created a calming atmosphere here in the school, because what did the students see? They saw people involved. They saw that there were those who were contributing to rescuing or helping out that lady that was in distress. And the bottom line would be that these people here before us are role models for others to emulate, because they saw to get involved for the greater good is something that's very important. And I too just want to extend heartfelt congratulations to each of these 15 who are standing here before us for their willingness to think of others above themselves. And they certainly deserve the special recognition that they've received here tonight. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Ronigan and the school board, for allowing me to share these thoughts.
Thank you very much, Rep. Clymer. We appreciate you being here. If this group would please go with Mr. Ferry, he is going to take a group photo of all of you. Thank you again sincerely from all of us here at the board and the administration. Thank you. I'd also like to welcome here tonight to our meeting Troop 215 of the Boy Scouts. They are here to observe our meeting as part of their communications merit badge work. So thank you for being here and welcome.
At this point, we will move to the questions and comments from guests. Please identify yourself by name and by the municipality of residence, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. The first name I have on the list of the public sign-up is Valerie Roquette. If you would speak from the podium, yes, please.
Turn the button on.
Do I have a timer?
We're not officially timing you.
Okay. Excuse me. My name is Valerie Rocket. I would like to bring up the issue of harassment and the bullying policy in the school district. My 12-year-old daughter, a student at South Middle School, was physically assaulted on Tuesday, October 21st, 2014. While in music class, the discovery of this incident happened on Wednesday the 23rd. While at a dentist appointment, I noticed my daughter had cut her arm. After she broke down crying, saying that she had been bullied verbally since the beginning of the school year, I asked her to make a list of names and what was said to her. She wrote a list of 8 boys' names, and I will not use boys' names. One of the things on there was how a microphone wire was wrapped around her neck while in music class, where a teacher felt it appropriate to have 2 young boys and our daughter in the teacher's office for a station, where she could not see the kids and my daughter could not see her. My husband and I got in touch with Ron Taylor on that Wednesday. We went right over to South and let him know what was going on. We went home, I called the police, and my daughter and I went to the cops and made a complaint and knew that charges would be filed. My husband drove our daughter to school Thursday morning, where my husband had informed Mr. Taylor that criminal charges would be pressed against the student. Mr. Taylor, my husband had asked Mr. Taylor for the 2 not to be in the same classroom. At that time, my husband was told there was nothing that could be done. They could not change anybody's roster, nothing could be done. Had we known this, that this boy would be in her social studies class that day, my daughter never would have stayed in school Thursday. I have made numerous phone calls to Mrs. Radigan, Mr. Phillips. I called and left you a message today as well. I have yet to hear back from anybody about what is going to go on, but apparently you guys have already failed my daughter. It's funny how nothing could have been done. We were verbally told by Mr. Taylor nothing could be done until the media showed up at South Middle School. I got a phone call from Mr. Taylor at 2:53 p.m. stating he wanted me to come in because the boys' roster had surprisingly been changed. Going back to the incident that had happened on October 17th, you would think that all teachers in the district would be on heightened alert to not allow one 12-year-old girl in a room unsupervised with 2 12-year-old boys. The teacher could not see my daughter could not see the teachers. Now, as far as for the anti-bullying and anti-harassment that I see plastered all over the walls in the Pennridge School District, the fact that this boy was allowed in the same class with my daughter after knowing what was going on, and how everything was pretty much just supposed to be swept under the rug. I gave a fair shot. I asked for phone calls to be made. At this point, I believe my daughter's IEP stands for nothing. And I would like to know what the school is going to do, what the district is going to do to replace my daughter in a school to where she can get an education, because my daughter has not been in school since Thursday. She is an honorable student and is now missing out on her education. I'd also like to bring up the fact that every year approximately 4,400 suicides are due to bullying. Bullied kids are also more likely to use drugs to numb the pain. Well, as a mother, I will take every measure possible to keep my child alive and not have her walk through Sellersville or Percy, where the heroin epidemic could just drag her down even more.
what is going to change in the district for the safety of future children because my daughter was failed. Thank you for your time.
This is Rocket. Can you tell us your municipality? Because I don't believe you stated that.
I did. I wrote down West Rock Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Perry.
Good evening. My name is Brian Perry. I live at 211 Barnhill Road, Bedminster Township. I previously appeared before the board at the June 23rd, 2014 meeting at the request of the business administrator to make a request to the board for the busing of my kindergarten-age son. Note that my appearance before the board only came after several months of back and forth correspondence with the district on where and how to address this request. I'm here tonight, as suggested by Mr. Cox, to air my grievances about the recent action made by the board about my busing request. In fact, Mr. Cox actually graciously invited me to all of the board meetings to the end of time to air my grievances if I so desire.
That's not true. I didn't invite you. I advised you that it was your right to address the board in a public setting. So let's be clear about that.
I'll consider that. Thank you. Going back to my original appearance before the board at the June meeting, my request was deferred by Mr. Cox to be handled as a written request to the Transportation Department, as this was a matter that couldn't or shouldn't be addressed by the board. Note that my original contact with the district on this matter was with the Transportation Department back in January of this year. Subsequent to the June 23rd meeting, my wife and I met with the superintendent and business administrator, where we were informed that the request would be discussed in a closed-door executive session of the board. Flash forward several weeks, and only upon further inquiry by me do I verbally hear that my request was denied by the board in a closed-door meeting. After several more weeks and further inquiry, I find out from the superintendent that the matter was formally voted upon at the September 22nd school board meeting. What's troubling to me is that I was not given the opportunity of fair representation anywhere in the process regarding my request, nor was I given prior notice of the vote held at the September 22nd school board meeting. To understand where I'm coming from, let me read to you a short section from the school district's policy manual. Pennridge School District Policy Manual, Section 906. Any parent, guardian, student, resident, or community group shall have the right to present a request, suggestion, or complaint. The board intends to provide a fair and impartial method for seeking appropriate resolution. Additional quote, the complainant shall be advised of the board's decision in writing no more than 10 days following the hearing. None of the above, including the part in writing, was done in my case. The point here is that the board wants to cite policy when deciding not to grant my request. No, forgetting common sense and practical decision-making, but fails to follow their own policy in matters regarding public complaints and inquiries. This is something I believe an intelligent board could have and still can handle administratively. So, before you motion to pass the September 22nd meeting minutes, I request an appeal on the decision that was made. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further names on the list. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before we commence board business? If not, we'll move to the consent calendar. Consent calendar includes the minutes of the September 22nd meeting and the special meeting on October 20th. The bills list, the capital projects, self-insurance, food service, and student activities bills list, the financial reports, budget transfers, and the superintendent's personnel report, including the EDR report and addendum. Are there any of these that board members wish to have voted on separately? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as listed? And a second?
No second.
Moved by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Deming to approve the consent calendar. Comments or questions from board members? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0 tonight. Next, we will move to the student liaison report. Mr. Cowles?
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. I have a quick report out this month. First, I would just like to give our approximate final donation for Pink Out, our Pink Out fundraiser, which took place in late September and early October. Tomorrow we will be headed over to Grandview Hospital for the big check cutting and signing. So we donated this year alone over $4,500 to Grandview Hospital, which is actually a record number for us as an organization. And just in its 5th year, we're really proud of where this fundraiser is going. We think it's going to a great cause, staying local, but impacting so many lives just here in the community. Also, this past week was our homecoming celebrations, or festivities. Throughout the week, we had spirit competitions throughout school lunches as a way to boost spirit, hit spirit days, a lot of decorations. This past Friday was our parade and game. We had a great crowning during halftime for that. And then this past Saturday was our dance, and I would have to say it was a tremendous success. It ran very smoothly. The administration said that they were, at this point, very pleased with the results. And as a student council, we're very happy to see so much support for the events that we're putting on to the students. So with that, I have nothing, no further comment.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to the President's report, and I will initially apologize for my voice. I spent Saturday night at a very exciting, somewhat frustrating, and very noisy event in central Pennsylvania, and don't have as much voice as I'd like to have tonight as a consequence. But that said, first of all, on the agenda you will see that there are right-to-know requests. The board receives numbers of right-to-know requests from time to time, and each and every one of them requires attention in terms of, at the very minimum, members of our staff to address those requests, and if that is needed, to find the documents and then give them to the requester. In many cases, this is also referred to our attorney who deals in this particular area of expertise, the right-to-know issues. And from here forward, the board intends to let the public know what is being spent on this kind of activity. For the last month, since September 18th, there have been 6 requests. The attorney's fees have run to $3,962.50. And I would also note that tomorrow there is a hearing in Harrisburg which will take at least 2 of our our staff to Harrisburg to testify and give information on this issue. So this is an increasingly costly and time-consuming issue. At some point, if it does not level off, the board will, of necessity, have to hire someone to do this as a full-time job, simply because we cannot ignore the requests that come to us. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you tonight is about the whole issue of public school accountability. I suspect many of you know that the right-to-know law, I'm sorry, not the right-to-know law, the No Child Left Behind law was passed in 2002. And this was supposed to be the magic year for that. And by magic year, I mean that all students were supposed to be proficient across the state and the country. Obviously, that was a laudable but probably an unrealistic goal that was set 12 years ago. Obviously, schools have not, as a whole, or it specifically met that goal, although they have certainly raised scores on performance scores, and they have also lifted some of our neediest students in terms of performance upward in that situation. One of the things that continues is the whole issue of what constitutes reasonable accountability in terms of high-stakes testing. Some states, New York comes to mind, have had Regents tests for many, many years. Pennsylvania now has instituted Keystone tests. And the Keystones, along with other measurements, are part of the school performance scores that the Department of Education has rolled out. Actually, they rolled out out last fall. And it turned out to be a little bit like the Affordable Care Act. The rollout was anything but smooth, and certainly not, the outcome wasn't particularly desirable. It turned out that at least 20% of the data was inaccurate or missing for the various schools. That has a great impact not only on the students, but on, last year, the 2013-2014 school year, it impacted administrators' evaluations, and this coming year, or the year that we're currently in, it impacts our teacher evaluations as well across the state. The state was supposed to have this year's school performance numbers out in late September. Then it was pushed to October 1. Now it may or may not be the end of this month. Obviously, the end of this month is coming hard and fast, so I wouldn't hold my hat in hand for that. Then there's the other issue of, as we all know, elections are forthcoming, and if there's a change in the state government at the gubernatorial level, that generally means a change in the Department of Ed's philosophy as well. That could mean that this whole system that everyone has geared up to work with and try to make functional could be scrapped, and we could start with a different system. So those are the problems that face this issue, and there are several articles in various papers across the state recently talking about what can or should be done to make this a more workable system. But for now, it's a difficult system to live with, but it is one that we all have to live with because it is law. At this point, I'll go to the superintendent's report. Dr. Radigan?
Dr. Yarnell, may I make a comment?
Yes, Mrs. Miller.
On the item that was just discussed. There's been a lot of discussion about the right to know, and I understand the cost to the district and the time to the employees and everything. But I went online to look on the Office of Open Records website, and there have been 7 appeals to Pennridge that Pennridge has lost. And I do question if we're getting adequate legal advice, because every one of those appeals must have cost thousands of dollars in attorney fees. And we're losing the appeals, every one, 7 out of 7. So I question, again, are we getting adequate legal advice on this? I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
7 out of 7.
Dr. Radigan?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yarnell. First, I have some thank yous for the district office meeting room displays this month. Thank you, Grass Elementary. We also had 48 backpacks kindly donated from United Way. Mr. and Mrs. Eric Gordon donated a drum set and accessories. And CW and Marjorie J. Schrank Family Foundation gave us a generous $2,900 donation for the Life Skills program at Central Middle School. So we continue to be grateful for all of these individuals and all those who continue to help us. This month, I am proud to share with you quite a bit of good news about great things that are happening throughout the district each and every day. First, we have 2 seniors who have advanced to the semi-final round of the National Merit Scholarship Competition. Lauren Fossbenner and Roger Fowler are among 16,000 students, or approximately 1/3 of the 50,000 high scorers to qualify as semifinalists. They are in addition to 7 other seniors who have been named commended students in the 2015 National Merit Scholarship Program. Those students are Neil Frings, Ashley Landis, Alexander Ozer, Nicholas Parsons, Zachary Strauss, Vakesh Sugathan, and David Walker. Although they will not continue in the 2015 competition for National Merit Scholarship Awards, commended students placed among the top 5% of more than 1.5 million students who entered the competition by taking the 2013 preliminary National Merit Scholarship qualifying tests. So congratulations to all and good luck to Lauren and Roger as they move forward. Over at the Upper Bucks County Technical School, senior Joe Bauer has been named Student of the Month for October. Joe is in his 3rd year as a member of the Diesel Equipment Technology Program. He is president of the Skills USA Club. As a 10th grader, Joe placed 4th in the related technical skill math competition at Skills USA. Last year, he placed 1st at districts and 2nd at states in the diesel competition. His goal is to make it all the way to the nationals. When he isn't working, hunting, or fishing in his spare time, Joe is a volunteer firefighter with the Plumsteadville Fire Company. He is very much into helping people and even teaches some of the firefighting classes. After graduation, Joe is looking into furthering his diesel career at Penn College of Technology. Earlier this month, Student Council, as Nick said, sponsored the Pink Out 2014 at Hellman Field. And over the last 5 years, we've raised $15,000, but as Nick said, this was a record year at $4,500. In addition to reading, writing, and arithmetic, a select group of Diebler Elementary School students are learning mixing, measuring, and baking skills thanks to a state grant. Kristen Moyer, the chef educator at nearby Blooming Glen Farms, and Gina Giratana, our Director of Nutritional Services, share their knowledge with the 15 budding chefs in the school's cafeteria kitchen every Wednesday afternoon from 3:30 to 5:30. Over 7 weeks through November the 19th, they will learn basic kitchen skills and hands-on recipe preparation, taste test new fruits and vegetables, and learn the benefits of eating healthy and locally. Their creative thinking skills will also be challenged by coming up with names for their recipes. In the first week, students learned kitchen basics and made their own yogurt parfaits. In week 2, they made apple crisp. Upcoming dishes include banana breakfast cake, spicy baked peppers, bean chili macaroni, celery mashed potatoes, and berry fruit pizza. I heard that the pumpkin muffins were made last week and they were outstanding. Maybe the next Food Network star is being groomed right here at Pennridge. Sometimes learning happens outside the classroom. Last week, 41 students from Miss Ralston's and Mr. Muse physics classes attended the Drexel University Physics Department 19th Annual Kazmarchik Lecture and Open House. The open house featured demonstrations and presentations by professors and graduate students about the physics principles and current research. Students learned about IceCube, an experiment at the South Pole to detect high-speed neutrinos emanating from black holes, current research in superconductors and magnetism, and the physics of protein-molecule interactions. Sounds like a very easy topic. This year's lecturer was Margaret Geller, a MacArthur's Fellowship Genius Award winner, who spoke about mapping the universe in 3 dimensions to understand its basic structure. Now to sports. The fall sports season is winding down, and as usual, our student athletes are excelling. Congratulations to Phil Gunderson and Marissa Shiva on qualifying for the state cross-country championship. Congratulations to the girls' water polo team and Coach Ryan Griffiths on qualifying for the playoffs. The team will play tomorrow at 6 p.m. at a site to be determined. Congratulations to the boys' water polo team for winning the Beast of the East tournament, Flight 2. Congratulations to the girls' soccer team and Coach Audrey Anderson on winning the Suburban 1 Continental Conference Championship for the 6th season in a row. Congratulations to the golf team for winning the wild card berth at the Suburban 1 League Golf Championship, earning a spot in the District 1 golf tournament. The team also performed well in the individual results for the Continental Conference as Matt Schwartz finished first, Andrew Simpson second, Colton Pfeiffer third, and Drew Bachtel in a tie for 6th. Congratulations to the field hockey, boys lacrosse, and baseball teams for being selected as the Suburban 1 League Outstanding Sportsmanship Teams. This award is selected by the coaches from all the schools in our league. It's quite an honor. And congratulations to the field hockey team for raising $760 on behalf of Autism Speaks. And it's not just our students who are doing great things, as we saw earlier tonight, the folks that were recognized, but Miss Jen Tesno, our new supervisor for Language Arts and Humanities K-8, was a presenter at the Marshall Cavendish International Conference held in Washington, D.C. on October 14th. Ms. Tesno gave 2 presentations during the conference, Technology and Mathematics Education, and Case Study of Implementation of Singapore Math in the U.S. She was among speakers from all over the world, including Dr. Alan Ginsberg, former Director of Policy and Program Studies for the U.S. Department of Education. Next month, 2 teachers from Penn Central will be attending the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics Regional Conference in Richmond, Virginia. Sandra Miller and Deanna Januzzi will be presenting a workshop on the golden ratio rectangle to other math teachers and offering them activities to use in their classroom. Nutritional Services celebrated Food Day 2014 by serving scratch recipes through the district on October 24th to highlight the importance of healthy eating and using locally sourced foods. At the high school and middle schools, lunch included homemade flatbread pizzas and buffalo pork subs, fresh roasted red potatoes, and fresh steamed squash, both local produce. In the elementary schools, the menu included fresh spinach salads from local Meyerhoff Farm, homemade vegetable soup, and roasted pulled pork sandwiches, all made from scratch. And even our parents are doing great things. On September 27th, the Pennridge Marching Rams band parents received the prestigious honor and recognition of being named Best Pit Crew at the North Penn 2014 Night of Sound Marching Band Competition. The parents you see rushing onto the field, pushing and pulling equipment, and making sure there is always water available are the all-volunteer crew. The Ram Roadies crew sees to all of the marching band's equipment and transports it to and from the fields for all competitions and football game performances. This includes all the large instruments, percussion, pit, podium, sound system, amplifiers, and other prop equipment. So congratulations to all their efforts helping the marching Rams showcase their Pennridge pride. So as you can see, all groups here at Pennridge are doing fabulous things. With that, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Brevard to add to my report with some information on our enrollment data and our new concept of sister schooling.
Thank you, Dr. Ratty. I have placed in front of you at your desk an analysis of the 2011 enrollment projections that was given to us by PEL. Remember, 3 years ago, the district did a study. I track it every year to see how far they are off, and which way they're off. So obviously we use the data from 2000 and I think that was 11 we started with this. So we are the third year out from that, and the variance now is about 3.1%. It's within their range, but it's 3.1%, and actually they have projected more students than we actually have. So that's why we recommend every 3 years we go through the process and have this done again, because the first year and the second year are pretty good. They were only off 1.7% the first year, after it was done, and 2.5%. But we're now up to 3.1%, and I don't know which way the economy is going. We hear a lot of the new developments that are being presented in different townships and municipalities, but this is where we are. I know that a lot of you who live for data, this is something for you to keep you awake at night. And if you wish to have a further conversation, we can either tag it on to an activities committee meeting or one of the finance or facilities committee meetings, because obviously if there is growth, it will affect what the district needs to do to prepare for that. But I offer that to you. As Dr. Radigan said, what was new for this coming year was the board approved a pilot year for the sister schooling. And the goal was to not save money, but to avoid the additional costs that happened during the school year. And I can tell you at this point for the school year, what the district has avoided was adding 3 regular teachers where class size would have grown, and since school started, avoiding adding 2 over enrollment aides. The total savings is about $324,000. It's approximate because some of those over enrollment aides would have been added a little bit later, one as of last week. And there's going to be approximately between $15,000 and $18,000 in transportation costs, but you can see the savings so far is going to be around $300,000, which is a good savings, cost avoidance for the school district. Sometime in January or February, we're going to have to make a decision for the board to continue it for another year or continue it as a regular practice, but this is the information we have so far. It's about 17 or 18 students. Some change, based on whether there's room or not in the buildings as the year progresses, but it's not a lot of students, but it's a lot of money savings that we actually avoided spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Radigan and Dr. Brevard. We will now move to committee reports. The first one is activities. Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Activities Committee did not meet this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 12th, and I understand all meetings will be held in this building.
Thank you. For academic performance, we also did not have a meeting this month. The next planned or scheduled meeting will be November 24th. It will be here. It will be at 7:30. If the test scores are available and compiled, I believe Dr. Brewster will be presenting those that night. But check on the agenda before you come if that's your specific interest. At this point, we'll move to the Facilities Committee meeting. Excuse me. I gather Mr. Casper is a bit under the weather tonight, so he's not here helping to contaminate us, which is probably a good thing. So we will I will actually offer the motions. These were all discussed at the Facilities Committee held on October the 13th. The first motion will be a motion to obsolete the items listed below. They include Section A from South Middle School, B from West Rock Hill, C from Bedminster, D from Siler, E from Booth, F from the district office, and G from the technology department. I believe that's all. I have to go to the next page. Yes. So do we have a second approving that those items as listed can be sent to scrap, public service, recycle as listed? Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Miller to approve the obsolete items. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next motion is to approve change orders. And these change orders are the first change order for the Sellersville Elementary roof replacement. This is actually a deduct of $19,143.40 for unused material allowances. We also have a change order for the District Support Center. This is an addition of $9,549 for trailer rental, and a second change order for South Middle School, which is a deduct of $45,444.58, again for credit for unused material allowances. Do I have a second to that motion? Thank you. Moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve the change orders. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The third motion on the agenda tonight is to approve Dewey Engineering, Inc. To move forward with the design and bid documentation for the following three projects: for roof coating on Central Middle School, for the operations building replacing an oil-fired burner with a high-efficiency gas-fired burner, and for the operations building replacing roof areas A and B, which excludes the shingle roof areas. So do I have a second for that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve Dewey Engineering for the design and bid documentation of the projects listed below. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next Facilities Committee meeting will be held on November 10th, 2014. The next committee is Finance. Mr. Sarnese.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Finance Committee also met on October 13th, and our first motion is to approve contracts. And contracts are listed A through L. I think we should vote on A through J since they were the ones discussed at the Finance meeting, and then we can vote separately on K and L in case there's any questions about those. So I'd like to move that contracts listed A through J be approved.
Do I have a second for the motion? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Moved by Mr. Sarnese and seconded by Mr. Thompson to approve contracts A through J. Comments or questions from board members? Mrs. Yardley.
I just have a comment. The one contract, First Savings Bank of Percy is the first donation for the Rams on the Bridge capital campaign. So that's being approved tonight. And it's we did see the draft at the Finance Committee, and there were just some minor changes, I believe, made. But it's still, so it's been reviewed by the solicitor. So, right, so there's just some, I think one change was the term of the agreement. So I just wanted to point that out. So it's the first donation, $40,000 in the capital campaign.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to First Savings. Other comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese.
Contract listed K for the Bucks County Intermediate Unit Agreement to print the homestead exclusion notices at .622 per parcel. I believe it's a printing. Yes, and they've done this before. Printing and mailing, so they've done this before for us. So
I'd like to move that that be approved.
Do we have a second to that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Moved by Mr. Sarnese, seconded by Mrs. Miller to approve the Bucks County IU doing printing and mailing of homestead exclusion notices. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese?
And contract L is with Conrad Siegel, and that's a proposal for health and welfare benefits consulting related to analysis of the healthcare reform and the employer shared responsibility coverage mandate. Estimated fees are between $6,000 and $7,000, and this is obviously as a result of the Affordable Care Act and the mandates that are coming up starting next year, I believe, right? So I know the company I work for also has to do a lot of work with this. It's a lot of analysis work up front to make sure that we comply and don't fall under some of the penalty situations for non-coverage and those types of things. So I would ask that this be approved.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Deming. Moved by Mr. Sarnese, seconded by Mr. Deming to approve Conrad Siegel for analysis of healthcare reform issues. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese?
Yes. The next is a motion to approve three settlement agreements identified as 2014-39, 2015-12, and 2015-13.
Thank you. Do we have a second to approve the settlement agreements? Moved by Mr. Sarnese, seconded by Mr. Thompson to approve the settlement agreements. Comments or questions from board members? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese?
The next is a motion to approve student activity account requests, and these are all renewals for the 2014-2015 school year, and they're listed Roman numeral 1 through 8.
Do we have a second to the motion for renewal of student activity accounts? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved by Mr. Sarnese, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve the student activity renewal account requests, or account renewal requests. Comments or questions from board members?
The one is actually establishment, the high school mini-thon. That's not a renewal, that's a, if you look on it, it says establish. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes. Okay. A couple of these are new, so it's listed wrong. Numeral 8, the mini-thon is new. 7, the Future Business Leaders of America is new. 5, the high school class of 2018 is new. I believe the others are renewals.
Do we need to change
I guess we
the motion?
probably should amend it. Are you willing to amend it, Mr. Sarnese, to reflect those changes?
Yes.
And Mr. Deming, Mr. Thompson, I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
So the motion as amended has either,
The motion as amended has either, in 5 cases, renewal accounts, and in 3 cases, new accounts, student activity accounts. Other comments or questions from board members? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese.
And the final motion is to approve a deputy tax collector, Raymond J. Patton, for Percy Borough.
Do I have a second to that motion? Moved by Mr. Sarnese, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve Mr. Patton as the deputy tax collector in Percy Borough. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sarnese?
And our next Finance Committee meeting is also scheduled for November 10th, right here.
Thank you. Next would be the intermediate unit. Mrs. Miller?
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Bucks County IU met on October 21st at the Doylestown location. The IU was pleased to award several employees with the following awards. The Annie Sullivan Award was given to Karen Scheck, teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. Outstanding Service Award was given to Ingrid Beck, special education teacher, Anna Eastwood, ASL English interpreter, Elizabeth Josui, I apologize for any of these mispronunciations, special education assistant, Elizabeth McCourt, special education teacher. The William Van Teen Leadership Award was given to Dr. Elizabeth O'Donnell, Director of Non-Public Programs, and the Richard O. Coe Rookie of the Year Scholarship Award was given to Kate Laidlaw, a speech-language pathologist, and Dan Zoch, systems engineer. The board received a report on the many wonderful services provided by the Bucks County IU OTs and PTs, services designed to facilitate a student's ability to access the school environment and participate in their educational curriculum. In addition to direct services, the therapists developed adaptations and accommodations to bypass barriers through their successful participation. They work collaboratively with school staff in developing evacuation plans, recommending equipment including braces, gait trainers, standards, etc. They also work to develop programs. For example, the board viewed a videotape of a class of students designing, digging, and planting a garden. It was very, very cute. The PA Department of Education recognizes the value of partnering with the IUs to provide training and support and for the state's mandates and initiatives and the funding to offset those costs. 9 initiatives sponsored and funded by PDE for the 2014-15 school year are collectively known as statewide system of support. The initiatives include comprehensive planning, data governance and quality, e-metric, PVAS, school profile, and the SAS portal, Keystone exam project-based assessments, non-teaching professional effectiveness, PA core standards, PA student learning objectives, and safe schools. Other board action items include the approval of contracts, agreements, memorandums of understanding, fund transfers, grant applications, and bid awards. Lastly, the BCIU 17th Annual Golf Classic raised close to $15,000 to support the Education Foundation. The Education Foundation has so far awarded 6 grants to various classrooms. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 18th, 7 p.m., but it will be held at the Tawanka Learning Center in Langhorne.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Personnel, Mr. Deming.
Thank you, Dr. Grinnell. We had no personnel meeting, but we've got 4 motions tonight. Nonetheless, first motion is to approve memorandum of agreement on extra duty pay between district and the PEA.
Do I have a second to that motion? Moved by Mr. Deming and seconded by Mrs. Yardley to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Pennridge School District and the PEA. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Deming?
Second is a motion to approve the miscellaneous employees' salaries for the 2014-2015 school year. All the board members and the staff got a printout of that on the computer today.
Do I have
Before this meeting.
Do I have a second to the motion to approve miscellaneous employee salaries for this school year? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved by Mr. Deming, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve the miscellaneous employee salaries. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Deming?
Third motion is to approve the agreement with an individual identified and discussed with this board in the executive session on July 23rd, 2014.
Thank you. Do we have a second to this motion for another agreement?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Moved by Mr. Deming, seconded by Mr. Thompson to approve the agreement. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Deming?
Fourth motion is to approve a settlement agreement, which is number 201-304-204.
Do we have a second to that motion? Moved by Mr. Deming, seconded by Mrs. Schmidt to approve the settlement agreement. Comments or questions from board members? Not. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Deming?
Our next personnel meeting is scheduled for the 14th of November this year.
12 or 14? 12.
Did I say something wrong?
You said the 14th.
It's the 12th. November 12th, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
I'll get my eyes checked here shortly, okay?
How about the policy committee, Mr. Deming?
And our policy review committee is also scheduled for the same night, which is November 12th, 2014.
Thank you. Upper Bucks County Technical School, Mrs. Schmidt.
The Upper Bucks County Technical School met on October 16th, 2014. As Dr. Radigan announced earlier, Joseph Bauer was the October Student of the Month from Pennridge. The September Student of the Month was Jason Crawford from Quakertown. There was a finance meeting that evening. Discussion was in regard to the future of the adult evening school. They will be further discussing the financials of the program. We'll reevaluate for the future, but current classes will continue as of right now. There were 2 change orders for the building project. Excuse me, 3 change orders for the buildings project totaling $9,348.95. The first was in regard to lockers in the horticultural building, changes to the interior signage throughout the buildings, and the third was for additional signage so that every space in the building has a physical identifier. There was a motion to accept the comprehensive plan and submit it to the PDE. There was also out-of-state travel for professional development was approved. 2 motions, one to nullify EMT training agreement and then to enter into a new one based on a change in the instructor. Motion to approve the revised school calendar to reflect a new last day for teachers. And a motion to accept the Occupational Advisory Committee members for the 2014-2015 school year. There was no public comment and the meeting was adjourned. The next meeting is scheduled for November 20th, 2014 at 7:14 at the Upper Bucks County Technical School.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. And also next would be the Technology Committee, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, the Technology Committee has not met, and the next meeting will be scheduled as needed.
Thank you. And Act 48, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you. The Act 48 Committee met on October 9th, 2014. First topic that was discussed was a comprehensive plan for the Pennridge School District. The committee reviewed the plan that had been on display by the school district. There was one correction that was brought to the attention of Dr. Bavard, and this will be passed on to Mrs. Parati, who can make correction prior to the board's approval. Second was Act 48, status of Pennridge School District teachers. Dr. Bavard shared that the teachers were on target to complete their Act 48 hours for the 2014-15 school year. There would work be done with Jamie Vinci, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct, to review the status of Act 48 hours for those teachers that needed hours to complete their in 2016, 17, and 18. And the third was Act 126, professional development requirements, the status. It was shared with the committee that the IU is working to complete the 3-hour mandated training program for all school employees. The next Act 48 committee meeting is scheduled for January 15th, 2015 at 4 p.m. in the district office.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Next is ad hoc fundraising. Mrs. Schmidt or Mrs. Yardley, whoever is going to speak on this issue.
I've advised Mrs. Yardley to abstain on this vote since she also sits on the board of the foundation. And I don't think, it's not my opinion that it's a technical conflict of interest under the Ethics Act, but I think it's good practice for a board member to abstain on this kind of vote. So if Mrs. Schmidt would make the motion, I would advise that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The ad hoc fundraising committee met on October 20th.